Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video, and welcome to the very center of Moscow. Now today and tonight I'm going to take you for a bit of a walk along Tverskaya Street, which is the road right by me just here. And I want to show you some of the military equipment that is going to be part of the Victory Day parade, which will take place in a few days' time here in Moscow. They actually have some rehearsals that they do in the evening time and early afternoon, and I think it might be interesting. I'm actually filming this in a little bit of reverse order, so I will actually cut into some footage of the military vehicles coming down the main street where we are here. And there is a little bit of the video where I'm not talking. Maybe people will be happy about that. And just for the atmosphere and the sound. And I hope you find this interesting. And I'll show you a little bit of the crowds here as well. And let's go for a walk. As I'm filming this part of the video, it's currently 9 p.m. And just ahead of us right here is the Kremlin. You can see the yellow brick on the upstairs levels of the building. And then you can see Red Square off in the distance. And then this is Tverskaya Street, which is one of the main roads that leads in to Red Square, or leads away from Red Square. And I did come here quite a bit earlier this afternoon. We will jump to footage of that, where I'll show you some of the vehicles that came down the main road. And now there is quite a lot more people than there was a few hours earlier. However, what they're doing for the Victory Day events is they do some rehearsal nights, and they close off a whole lot of the roads in the center of Moscow, and they fence everything off, and then they actually rehearse the event or the parade that'll come from just outside the center of Moscow, and then eventually the vehicles and the military will actually march into Red Square, which I think a lot of people might have seen that on TV. And then we can see now basically all of the vehicles are all stopped, and a lot of people are wondering what's happening. Now, people came here at 5 or 6 p.m. They've waited quite a long time, and what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to walk a little bit further up Tverskaya Street, and we're going to see if we can get a little bit of a look at some of the equipment. Now, the only thing is now is it's a lot of people. There is literally tens of thousands of people that are now here on Tverskaya Street, and there's different equipment. A lot of the equipment is actually dating back from the Great Patriotic War, which, depending on where you live, you may know it as World War II. So there's a lot of the actual museum equipment that they've got, and then there is some of the modern and current equipment further up the street. So I think it's really interesting to come and cover this. Now, the actual Victory Day events are a little bit harder to come and film things, and because of the amount of people and the fact that all of Red Square is closed off, a lot of the entrances and exits from the Red Square area are closed, and from the metro, so you can't get really all that close to anything. So a lot of people will intentionally come to the rehearsal nights because it's a little bit easier to see things. And if you want to particularly see all of the vehicles, you can see them going all the way back up Tverskaya Street right there. So if you haven't seen a video on my channel before and this video popped up, I'm actually an Australian who lives here in Moscow region, and I have a channel about living here in Russia. And a lot of my videos are about everyday life. You might see a lot of the titles saying the word typical, because I cover a lot of normal, typical things that happen here in Russia. So I hope this is interesting for you and perhaps eye-opening. I'm not sure the right word to say. So yeah, I guess let's move on to the video. So I am trying to stop as I walk along and show you different columns of vehicles that are parked up here. Now, in between the different cuts, as you're watching this, I'm going to jump back to the footage of a few hours ago during daylight, when a lot of these vehicles were driving past where I was standing. And I think it's just interesting to see the sheer amount of military equipment. I'm trying to be very correct with the words that I'm using, so it's a little bit easier to understand. It's not as many people as I'm walking further up. A lot of people are walking towards Red Square, although it's all closed off. And I already knew that before coming here, so I intentionally came further back up Tverskaya Street to get a better view of all of this equipment on the road. So there is quite a lot of different equipment here from different eras, particularly the fact that this is the anniversary year as well of the end of the Great Patriotic War. So they've got a lot of older machinery and then current machinery. Now at the moment, all of the vehicles have come down the main street here, and they're at a pause at the moment because of the fact that Red Square has things going on as well. So they're doing different rehearsals on different parts of the parade. So all of these vehicles and machines are all parked up for now. So if you have ever been to Moscow and perhaps been to the center of Moscow, you know Tverskaya Street very well. And it's almost very eerie, the fact that there's no traffic running down this street. Normally it would be 3 or 4 lanes in both directions. And there's almost a silence as you're walking along the streets here. And it's just so strange. I've been to Moscow and into the center of Moscow thousands of times, And for it to be so quiet like this, it's just, I'm going to say the word strange, because it's very rare that they close off the entire center of Moscow. Of course, they hold the Victory Day parade every year around these dates, but I haven't personally come into the center to see this before now, so it's just interesting for me as well, because you're so used to that hustle and bustle. We're in a metropolis city that's got more than 15 million people, and then just this silence as you look at the vehicles on the side of the road here. I think even on video, it's very hard to give you a perspective of the amount of vehicles and machinery that's parked up on the street here. And it probably runs for around about 3 kilometers all the way back up the street. I'm actually going to walk up as far as the next metro station, just to give you an idea of the amount of equipment that's here. Also, I must say, Moscow is very beautiful at night. If you ever get a chance to come for a walk in the city in the evening time, there is something beautiful about the center of Moscow. So I've possibly walked about 10 minutes up the road from where Red Square would be, and I keep meaning to come to a Magnet right here. And there's actually a very famous Russian supermarket in the ground floor of this building. And it's just interesting, when you come out of it, you can actually see the Kremlin down the end of the road. And there isn't a lot of supermarkets in the very center of Moscow. And I need to go in and make a video at some point. If you've watched my channel for a long time, you know that I like to show different normal aspects of life here in Russia, and to go into supermarkets and show Russian typical life. Now, this building coming up on the left-hand side here, this is actually the mayor of Moscow's offices. And how amazing does it look at night, lit up. And then all of the vehicles parked right in front of it at the same time. It's actually a very nice night tonight. It's calm, there's no breeze, it's still, and it's just a very interesting night. We've actually had not the best weather for the last 3 days, and then tonight it seems to have just calmed down. These trucks going by are actually refueling trucks for the tanks, and they're going to go and refuel some of the vehicles as necessary. Again, the mayor of Moscow's offices are right there. I have shown this in a couple of videos before, so maybe you recognize it, maybe not. Literally everywhere that you walk in Moscow and in a lot of cities around Russia right now, there's big banners and flags and signs, because this is the 80th anniversary of the Great Patriotic War, or the end of it. And it's very symbolic for Russia to, of course, have the victory parade every year. This year just being a little bit more important because of the anniversary year. Wow, I wonder who is up there. There's a couple of lights on. Maybe somebody's working late tonight. As we look back down Tverskaya Street. Let's have one more look at the mayor's offices. It's a very big building. May not seem it on camera, but when you're standing next to it, it's massive. And then all of the vehicles lining Tverskaya Street. I think perhaps around about 4 kilometers the vehicles run all the way back beyond Pushkin Square, which is up ahead. Oh, Shaheen. Sure. As you're watching the clips from earlier, that was back around about 5 p.m. or so. I came quite a few hours early, trying to find an ideal spot to be and make sure I catch the vehicles going by. Whereas a lot of people who are coming into Moscow now later on, everything is at a standstill as they do the rehearsals on Red Square. And then eventually these vehicles will move off and follow the plan that they've got for the rehearsals. This is actually night 3. There is one more night scheduled, and then the main event will take place. So they want to make this right. The camera footage and photographs of this will go around the whole world, and they want to do things correctly. Also, the fact it's an anniversary year as well, it's very important that they get it all correct. Depending on where I put the footage in between these clips, there is some vehicles here with unmanned aircrafts. So there's the ones that are painted in all black here, and then there's some that are in grey off in the distance. It's perhaps a little bit harder to see at night time, but these are, I think, what everyone's calling drones, but they're quite a lot bigger than your average DJI thing. And when you see them on the back of the truck, things get a little bit real, and the hairs on your arm stand up just a little bit more, because if you've seen footage or news where they're using these, it's not nice. And when you're standing practically a few meters from them, it also puts a bit of a lump in your throat. As I get a little bit closer to Pushkin Square, which is at the next intersection. Now, I've walked about 20 minutes from where would be the road from the Kremlin and Red Square, and the vehicles keep going and going, and different models. Now, I'm in no way an expert on what I'm looking at here, so perhaps anybody comments what you're seeing or what I've shown when the actual parade was passing by. Might be interesting to know what some of these are. For anyone that doesn't know Moscow at all, and you might have heard of Pushkin Square before, it's very well known. Also, interestingly, the first McDonald's in Russia is just at the back of where these trucks are parked. And this is what they do when they close the roads in Russia when they've got events. They put the heavy vehicles from the local administration right on the street. That's the easiest way to close off an area. And then of course there's barriers, and then there is the military guarding everything right here. And really everybody's just going about their day. I think a lot of people, of course, wanted to come into the center of Moscow today to see this, because once we get to the day of the actual parade, it's much harder to get up close with this, and there'll be literally thousands more people here than what there is tonight. So just to see some of these different military vehicles on show, it's very eye-opening, and a lot of this really goes back to the history of Russia, the Soviet Union and USSR, and this is the 80th anniversary, and it's a very big deal for what Russia did and what they accomplished, and the amount of people that didn't come home from these events. So it's a big deal for the whole country, well beyond the few people that are here today as I'm walking around. Let me just talk for a minute about something quite interesting. So this is one of the administration's water trucks that they use about the city, and there's a driver there inside. And generally leading up to Victory Day, there is a lot of people who create signs and posters of their family members who perhaps lost their life during the Great Patriotic War. And then more than likely, the picture here in the window is the great-grandfather of this gentleman. And when you catch public buses, when you see any government vehicle on the road, you'll see these posters. So there's a gentleman in the window of this vehicle, and then it's a little bit hard to see here, but there's actually a lady on the poster in the other vehicle right there, and it's a way to honor the people that lost their life during the Great Patriotic War. And the gentleman who's driving this truck is probably, I would imagine this is his great-grandfather. So I was actually going to end the video by Pushkinskaya metro station, and I've walked just a little bit further past because they've got even more vehicles parked up. And then just have a look at this thing right here, 16-wheel, whatever it's called. I do apologize for not knowing what it is I'm looking at, but this thing is very intimidating as you walk by it. Just the sheer size of it, and it really shows you the true might of the Russian military and the Russian army, and what perhaps isn't shown on everyday local television stations, and just the amount of equipment that they've got here for this parade. I think it was always well known that for the 80th anniversary it was going to be bigger than it has been in the last 5 or 10 years. And to see these things parked up on the side of the road and literally within touching distance, it is almost scary. And if you're from a country that's not Russia, it's a whole different feeling when you see these literally meters from where you're standing. It's got a little bit louder now because some of the vehicles have started their engines, and there is word that they're going to start moving off. I'm not sure if I'm going to catch any of them driving off or not, because they said a few hours ago it was going to happen, and essentially the whole evening until about 3 a.m. the roads are closed through the center of Moscow. I've walked a little bit further down, and I think I'll end up by Tverskaya metro station, which is further along Tverskaya Street here. And again, you can see the vehicles that are just going and going. And I didn't realize how much further down the road they're parked. And there is literally hundreds of vehicles. I'm not too sure where they'll possibly park all of these in Red Square when they have the main parade. However, I think this is the point of doing these rehearsals over 4 nights. There must be some almighty engines in some of these vehicles, because the noise now that's coming from them once they all did the startup at the same time is incredibly loud. There is also some smaller jeeps or armored vehicles as well. So there is a very big mixture of different vehicles as I've walked along the whole street, and then you've seen some of the different cutaways at the same time. Just even the amount of security and military and police that are out today is a lot. This is leading up to Tverskaya metro station at the end of the road. Very nice part of the center of Moscow. This noise is very loud. Perhaps on the video it doesn't come out. I think quite a lot of it's coming from the tanks that we see on the opposite side of the street, because it's really reverberating, especially from earlier when there was no noise at all, because all the roads have been closed off. Now the sound really kicks up. So as I reach my final destination, and I'll actually catch the metro from right behind me here, my Tverskaya metro station. I hope you found this video interesting, and there was some clips as I've been walking from the start of the video, and then I put some clips in earlier on today when the vehicles were going down the main street. It's actually gone considerably quieter now, and eventually in not too long from now they'll open this street up again, and the cars will keep going down Tverskaya Street. So thank you, everybody. It's been a lot of walking today and a lot of waiting, and I hope the video is okay for the channel. And obviously it's quite different to a lot of other videos that I've done on my channel as well. So please perhaps look at some of the other videos on the playlists or other things that might interest you about my travels here in Russia. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, post a comment, let me know what you think of this type of video. And I know a lot of people are going to ask me that I should come to the Victory Day parade, and it's just impossible to get close to even what we've seen today. So this was a good way to come and see it. If you want to follow my Telegram channel, the link is right here. And if you want to see another video on the channel, you can click this link and keep traveling with Russell. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.